Tokyo. Kaito and his team were gathered around the TIA's boardroom table in Tokyo. The flat screen at the far end of the table flickered to life. Sounds of a press conference. Accents. American? Kaito's brow creased. He had not heard from Omiko since she had left for Venice and had received no reply to his message requesting a meeting on her return. An image took shape. The press corps briefing room in the White House. What happened to the news briefing from Venice? He inquired, scanning the faces of his team. Blank looks, shrugs. All eyes turned to the screen as an official approached the podium to address the assembled media. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attendance today, intoned the official, sounding as enthusiastic as if he was reciting the phone book. I know you're all excited to be part of this announcement about the Rapa Nui project findings, one of the most groundbreaking scientific discoveries of our time. This press conference is the subject of intense media and public interest. As usual, it is being live streamed via the web and is currently the #1 trending topic on social media, including on Easter Island. Polite laughter rippled around the press corps room. In a moment, we'll learn about the results of the Rapa Nui project, a 6-year collaborative study undertaken by some of the world's most preeminent scientists, led by Professor Lillian Lightstone. We are about to discover what their findings revealed. And now, please welcome the Director of the Office of Science and Technology Policy, Tony Denari, announced the official, gesturing to his right, as Denari bounded onto the podium, all sharp suit and winning smile. There was a collective sigh of dismay around the TIA table. Denari, he's well and truly compromised. He's worked for fossil fuel companies and major banks funding oil, coal and gas projects, groaned Kaito's communications director, running his hands down his face. What is going on? Why are policy people from the White House making this announcement and not the scientists themselves? Asked the TIA's Director of Strategy. A good question, thought Kaito. The press conference began with a lengthy description of the project, the funding partners, the biographies of participating scientists, the existing academic literature around the research question. Finally, Denari turned to the research findings, his face solemn. The Rapa Nui project offers insights into an age-old and long-contested question. Are human beings controlled by our genetic makeup? And if so, are we destined? And this is the critical part. The critical part. Denari paused for dramatic effect. Are we biologically programmed to bring about our own downfall as a species? The answer, according to this research, is yes, we are. Even more disturbing, Denari said once the ruckus had died down somewhat, is that a group of scientists who identified this gene want to edit it. They plan to collude with governments to enforce this on all of us, billions of people. They want to inject you with nanotechnology containing a virus so they can change your DNA and alter the very core of who you are. But I can tell you now, he pounded the podium with his fist, this government is not going to allow it. The briefing room erupted, hands raised, messages sent, questions shouted. Denari held his hands up, facing the audience. I know you will all have many questions, and we've got some time for those following this short explanation of the findings, so please bear with me. Kaito's phone jangled, jolting his attention back to the TIA boardroom. He looked at the screen. Omiko. His finger slid across the screen as he walked out of the boardroom into his office. Are you watching the press conference from the White House? Asked Omiko. They have just announced the findings of a research project, presumably the one you mentioned. How is it happening in Washington and not in Venice? It is a fake report. I mean, some of what they are saying is true, but not the whole truth, because the people presenting the findings are misrepresenting what is actually the case, according to the real research findings. And wait, stop. What do you mean a false report? I told you he was after this research, due to be launched by that group of scientists. By he, I assume you mean Necro? Yes. He stole the research from Professor Lillian Lightstone, the lead researcher in Venice. I caught him in the act, but I couldn't take the shot and he got away. Now he's traded off that research for something. I don't know what yet, but it has to be related to one thing at a time, snapped Kaito. Umiko took a breath. What did this Professor Lightstone say the findings of the research were? Kaito asked. Lightstone's team have been researching whether humanity is biologically, genetically, wired to engineer our own extinction, and if so, whether we can overcome our programming. So the announcement revealed. But what were the real results of this research? Pressed Kaito. Lightstone's team have discovered that we are indeed genetically programmed to bring about our own demise, but what was omitted from the press conference was that it is possible to break that programming. Lightstone's team have developed a way to edit the gene with nanotechnology. So this press conference in Washington is revealing the first part of the findings, but not the second? Correct. I see, exclaimed Kaito softly, the implications dawning on him. Necro has channeled this material into the hands of Terran climate deniers who have been selective in what they reveal. Yes, he doesn't have the ability to influence the Terran media on his own, but he would have realised that if he found a buyer whose motivations were aligned, they would serve his interests. Now people will be more likely to believe that whatever they do, whatever we do, it won't matter, that our genetic fate is sealed, mused Kaito. And they will believe that because they haven't been presented with the other significant part of the finding, that by editing the gene responsible, we can override our tendency to colonise every part of the planet, consuming our way through our resources and altering the climate, said Umiko. Can't Lightstone and her team simply set the record straight? Weren't they due to hold their press conference in Venice soon after the death of that unfortunate young woman? Said Kaito. It won't matter what they do, not now. A retraction, a follow-up clarification, an apology. It never gets the same amount of oxygen as the initial sensation, especially when such a story comes from the White House, said Umiko. You can bet that any tick of the clock now, the internet will be alight with an explosion of gene memes, most of them feeding on the frenzy of misinformation just announced. Kaito was silent, thinking. If people believe we are genetically fated to bring about our own extinction, he said finally, it will sow despair, hopelessness, undermine many efforts at many levels, especially in political response, and that's been an uphill battle as it is. And if they believe that the technology to address this is some kind of conspiracy, our demise will become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Exactly, said Umiko. There is nothing we can do about this Rapa Nui issue right now. Let Lightstone handle it. Our main concern is Necro. He would not have given that valuable material away. Find him. More importantly, find out who he did a deal with and whatever he got in exchange for it. I'm on it, said Umiko, upbeat as usual, though Kaito thought she sounded depleted. Kaito's phone screen went dark. Umiko was not the most orthodox of his agents, but she was one of the best in getting results. Now it was up to her. He could only hope her dogged pursuit of Necro would bring a successful outcome. He gazed across Tokyo from the 18th floor, the snow whipped into patterns by the wind, the city wrapped in a smooth blanket of white. It was snug and warm in his office. The last thing he wanted to do was go on a journey, but he had a meeting to attend, one no one else in the TIA knew he had scheduled. The following day was a national holiday, and he had arranged for his personal assistant to manage his calls so that he was less likely to be missed. Collecting his thick grey overcoat, scarf and gloves, he descended into the metropolis and ventured out into the blizzard.